Hey, Miss Tracy,
Hey.
you should be able to share.
All right, I'm going to share, and then I want to check an audio because yesterday I played something and it didn't.
When you get ready to share your screen, down at the bottom, share computer audio, check it.
Oh, look at that. Well then. Thanks.
It's a learning experience.
You think? Hold on. Matt, are you able to hear me?
Yep, loud and clear.
All right, and you can see my screen?
Yes, ma'am.
All right, let me get back to there. And now I'm going to play the audio. Whoa, what happened? I love that I'm getting booted out of my own. You get that audio?
Yep.
Okay, now when I go into presenter mode, hold on. Trying to see why it won't let me go into presenter mode. All right, does it look like I'm in presenter mode? Like, can you see the rest of my computer?
See your slides is what we see, like you're in PowerPoint.
Okay, cool. All right, so that worked. Don't know how
it's not in presenter mode.
Yeah, no, we can see everything.
We see your sidebar with your slides in it.
Okay.
Go to, well, I go to slideshow in your top menu.
Yeah, so I'm in, okay, so I'm actually in Google Slides now.
Yeah, it should work the same.
Okay, is it better?
No, didn't change.
Huh. Hold on. All right, so I'm in Google Slides. Can you see my screen now?
We see a screen, but it's still everything, not your presentation. Like we can see, yeah, we can see slide 59, 60, you know. All
right, let me unshare. Let me try that again. I see what I did, I think. All right. Now, can you see it?
Yes, ma'am.
And it's just the slides, not all my other messy stuff?
That's correct.
Okay, because I was bringing up the PowerPoint and that wasn't the one that I was supposed to. I was supposed to be in Google Slides.
All right, Miss Tracy, it's yours.
Great, awesome. Well, thanks again for having me back. This time I will be talking about topics that relate to the telecommunicators that will help them save lives on the side of the caller. Again, if you don't know who I am and you're new to my presentations, I'm Tracy Eldridge, and I am the Public Safety Community Engagement Manager for RapidSOS. I would think at this point everyone on here knows me, but you never know. And this is my big girl job. The passion that I have for what we're doing at RapidSOS is beyond measurable. And just to be clear, this is not an infomercial. It is not a sales pitch. I am not here to sell you anything. But what I do think is really important is that folks understand the additional data capabilities that are available at their fingertips, and then to truly understand how this technology works. This isn't a pipe dream anymore. I joke that when I first started with RapidSOS, I spent the first year and a half traveling around the country. Many of you were my first victims, new friends, when I left the center. But I spent a lot of that time getting folks to buy into the fact, or the way I like to describe it is I was selling a free product that didn't exist yet. And I remember, speaking at conferences, explaining how device-based hybrid location works and what they can do to get it into their 911 centers. And it became this kind of chicken and the egg thing where, we'll put the technology in our center if you get Apple and Google to turn it on. And Apple and Google were saying to us, like, we're not going to turn it on until there's a place to put the information. And then finally, there was this moment in the summer of 2018 in Nashville at the NINA conference where Apple announced that they were going to partner with us and they were going to send location information from the operating system on the device to our platform, and then we can send it to 911. And then there was this weird period where Apple announced it. It wasn't until September of that year when they finally turned on the capability in the iOS 12. And then shortly after that, Google agreed to do the same. And then again, this awkward period of, we turned it on the device, but not every device had been updated yet. So there's still folks out there, and I shake my head, but I smile as well. And that's why I get very excited when I get to present on things like this, to get folks to truly understand what is capable at their fingertips. And don't hesitate to pop any questions you have in the chat, and I will do my best to get them answered as quickly as possible. But I always have to start with a little bit about, why we're doing what we're doing. We know that there has been a challenge first with location. So there's a whole bunch of numbers on this screen. You can check them out if you want. But we know that the technology that has been able to be provided from Apple and Google to our emergency data platform has already been instrumental in saving thousands of people. And that is so very exciting. But now we're faced with this, we call it now the data challenge. The data challenge is there is so much data that is available in devices, on apps, that is not accessible by public safety. So as I've mentioned 100 times, if I've said it once, the technology that is being provided to you here is free. It's a no-brainer. Every center in the state of Tennessee should have access, or in the country for that matter, should have access to the RapidSOS emergency response data platform via the RapidSOS portal and in the integration if it's available. So I'm going to kind of tell you the differences between those because there is still some confusion. But nonetheless, we have folks that are coming to us daily wanting to send information to 911. And coming from the PSAP, I know that if you're a director, if you're a manager of a center, folks are coming to you all the time. I want to send this data to 911. I want to send that data to 911. I want to send this to 911. We truly understand that the last thing that a telecommunicator wants is one more screen to have to log into and another step to have to do their job. However, the only option for us to get this data in some instances to them for their processing of the calls is through an extra step. And I don't look at it as an extra step. I would never look at this as an extra step. Why? because the information and data and location and updates and everything that comes with it will save time and steps in the long run. And that, for me, reduces telecommunicator stress, which makes me very excited. So going back to 2016, mid 2016, I joined the RapidSOS team. And in January of 2017 was when I gave my first presentation at the Tennessee Winter Workshop. We did not have any type of connection at that point in January of 2017 to any 911 center. I was basically explaining what we can do and wanting people to do it. Today, we are in almost 5,000 of the 6,200 and something 911 centers. Why? Because what we provide is free and it works. And while it may not provide information on every single call, we're seeing that the number of calls that are able to get location from the emergency data platform is getting to be much more than when we first started. And I can assure you that there are folks that are still stuck on a time where Apple announced, Google announced, they ran a couple of calls, they didn't see any data, and they felt like it wasn't worth the effort. I can assure you that if you have the technology in your center, you should be querying every call that's coming in, not only just for location information, but additional benefits with location information, as well as information that is coming from our data partners. So on the bottom of the screen there, those folks are currently sending data through the emergency platform into the RapidSOS portal and then some of the integration partners. So I think some of you have heard me already whisper the words emergency response data platform. From this point on, I'm just going to call it the platform. Some of you remember that when we first started this thing, we called it the NG911 Clearinghouse, and then it changed to the RapidSOS Clearinghouse. Well, it now has taken on another name, sorry, but it is so much more than just a clearinghouse, and it has to be named as such. So if you hear me say the platform, that's exactly what I'm talking about, the clearinghouse. So just to get that terminology clarified. So for those of you that maybe haven't got out much in the last 3.5 years and you're not familiar with what the clearinghouse is, it is a cloud-based, standards-compliant location information server and an additional data repository. So when I was a baby dispatcher in 1997, about 3 or 4 years later, we started hearing this term NG911. And to me and to many others, what was meant by NG911 was pictures, videos, text, pictures, videos, and then for some retirement, because they did not want anything to do with this. But what I can assure you that a lot of this data that's being sent and the technology capabilities has nothing to do with just pictures and videos. There's so much more, and I'm going to show you some of that today. So again, reiterating that the information that comes from the emergency data platform is supplemental, okay? So it's not going to be there on every call. When it is there, there is various amounts of information that is available. It does not go through the traditional network. It is an IP solution. So there has to be a connection to the internet to allow for this data to get into your 911 center. Folks are still confused, not saying any of you are, but just to clarify, folks are still confused on the difference between the phase 1 and phase 2 location and the location that comes from the device through the platform and appears on your screen. That device-based hybrid location is a combination of all the sensors on the operating system on your device. Now, one of the things that I never used to say, but I do now, because it's very important, is what we're learning is because that data is actually coming through the data network and is coming from the operating system on the device, there are a lot of things that we always believed and thought were true in 911 that are proving to be different. And I'm going to show you some of those really cool things and blow your mind a little later in the presentation. So just to clarify, The location that's coming from the operating systems is coming from any iOS device that is 12 or higher, any Android device that is 4 or higher. For text to 911, it's iOS 13 and higher, and Android 4 and higher. Those locations are being sent from the device at the time of the 911 call. And when I say that they are moving, here you go, wicked fast, I am 100% confident that wicked is the most appropriate term. The majority of the time, the location is being delivered and sitting on the screen for the telecommunicator many times before the phone is even ringing on the handset. So the operating system is what drives that location. And wait till you see some of the cool stuff that's coming. So the location from the device is being delivered every few seconds during an active call. Every once in a while, when the call disconnects, folks are still seeing a few locations that come through. There's a couple of reasons for that. Because at the end of the call, when the call disconnects, we shouldn't be receiving any more locations. So during an active call, you're able to get the location every few seconds, and then the portal or your integration, depending on how often it rebids, can deliver that location while the call is active. When the call disconnects, no more locations should be sent. But what we're seeing is if a few locations come through on the portal, or you do see locations coming through for like a minute or so, it's because the device is still in emergency mode and it's still sending the location, but ultimately it will stop. There are a few devices that we will not get location for. And I'm going to get a little bit deeper into the last bullet over here, but as a standard, if the carrier cannot deliver voice and data simultaneously, we cannot get the location from the operating system. Now, with that said, many folks know that Sprint or US Cellular or some smaller type device carriers cannot send location. Well, I don't want you to be focused 100% on that. We are starting to see locations coming from Sprint and US Cellular devices. So don't just discredit them, query them anyway. We don't get location from older model flip phones that don't have the ability to have a data connection. And then this one's really important. And I'm gonna get a little bit deeper into this one because this is game changing. We do not get the location for non-service initialized devices. And that means a true non-service initialized device, not a non-service initialized device imposter. And what I mean by that is just because the area code on the alley screen says 911 does not mean that device does not have any service. And I'm going to explain that to you in just a little bit. But if the device is a true disconnected cell phone and it is not on Wi-Fi, I'm going to explain that a little more too, then we cannot get the location. But I'm going to show you some times where we can, and it'll be very cool. So more about the location later, but the additional data piece is where we really want folks to understand that we're trying to make a difference and an impact. We know that the world is connected. The world is connected in so many places, and there is so much information and valuable data that can be sent from any type of connected device into the platform and then onto emergency responders, and then in some cases onto the medical facility that is going to receive that patient, as well as emergency contacts. And while all of this is new and scary at times, be open to it. There's information that's proving to be very helpful that we may not even have thought about in the past. So why an extra screen? Wouldn't it be great if you could just pick up your 911 phone and have the information there at your fingertips? Absolutely. However, your alley screen only has the capability of seeing or displaying about 512 bytes of data. That means there is no room to add anything additional. And even if you added a clickable link that would open up a type of web browser to be able to receive that information, folks are very leery about clicking on links that are coming in with their 911 alley, right? So by using the portal, it is going to allow you to get any and all additional data that is available in the platform first, and then our vendor partners that are integrated will ultimately roll it out into their solution. Some do, some don't. So having access to the portal, if you don't yet, which the majority of the state of Tennessee does, but you need to be utilizing it all the time. Because if you're not querying a call, just because you have the location for the person, you are missing out on a boatload of additional data that could be sitting behind that phone number. And unless you query it, you don't know. Don't worry, you don't have to query every call for long. So we can access the platform through two ways, and you should have both of these in your center. Everybody should have the portal, and then if your CPE, CAD, all of your mapping, all of these folks are our vendor partners. They committed to integrating into our platform. So if you haven't integrated or reached out to find out about integration, do so with your vendor partners, and they'll be happy to tell you how to get access through your existing equipment. The portal, however, is a simple, quick, free solution, which most of you have, but there's two ways to utilize it. And sadly, so we have, as I mentioned, like we're almost 5,000 911 centers, but we're only at about 1,500 agencies that have accessed jurisdiction view. I need that to change. Why? Because you're missing out on some really cool stuff. So when the portal started, it was query view. You had to type the phone number in. If you qualify, so I'm going to add this, if you qualify for jurisdiction view, that means if a call comes into your jurisdiction, into the clearinghouse, we can automatically push it to your screen. Now, you have to talk to your customer success manager to see if you are eligible to access jurisdiction view. I'm not going to get into all that now, but nonetheless, they can answer that question for you. But one of the confusion points that we're seeing is we need your jurisdictional boundary. And what I mean by jurisdictional boundary, I mean the one in the middle. So the majority of you, when you signed up, you created this box that we called a geo file or whatever. So once you created that box, now you can query against any location or any phone number that is inside this box. And some of it went over your boundary lines, and that was fine. That doesn't change. That's staying there. As long as you type the number, if it's in this box, it's going to come back to you. The difference is accessing jurisdiction view. We cannot push you somebody else's data. So unless you have gone into the portal and you have specifically added your specific shapefile through the admin tab, through the ECC tab, and through the jurisdictional boundary file, then we do not have the ability to turn on jurisdiction view in your jurisdiction. So ultimately, at the end of the day, this is what you're gonna see. You're gonna have your specific shapefile where all the 911 calls will be pushed through to if they hit our clearinghouse and they're yours. And then this outside layer is where you can query. So if the call comes into your center, but there's no location appearing on the screen, then you can query it, and it could be somebody right outside your boundary and it hit your tower and you got the call. So rule of thumb, if you have jurisdiction view and you don't see the location on that screen, type it in. It might not be yours. Give that flaming bag to somebody else, whoever it belongs to, right? So as far as the general call view looks like, and I'm going to show you jurisdiction view in a second, but it's important to understand what you are able to see and where some of the game-changing technology is. This screen right here is an actual 911 call. I was doing a test call. I'm in the passenger seat of a director's vehicle, we place a 911 call and I'm screen recording. What I want to point out on here is that folks will say, no, we don't query every call because we get pretty good location. But do you get almost real-time updated location? And what I mean by that is I'm on the highway here, okay? We're driving down the highway. You can see almost verbatim what side of the highway I'm on. You can see what direction I'm traveling in. You can see the difference because those spaces are fairly wide apart. You can see that I'm moving pretty quickly. And in the next video, if you see the spaces that are very close together, you will see that I'm going very slow. The difference between wide spaces and close spaces is the difference between a kidnap or a domestic victim getting off the highway, staying on the highway, and getting help to them immediately. And the direction thing, yeah, I'm geographically challenged. When you give me directions, please don't use words like east and west. How many of you ask people what direction you're traveling in and they can't tell you? Well, guess what? Very specifically, you can see this almost every 3 to 5 seconds. That's game changing. If there's additional data available, it's going to tell you here on this version, but we also have other data that's using a newer API, and I'll show you how that's delivered. But over here, you also have the ability to have an estimated reverse geocoded address. Now, it isn't always 100%, but your uncertainty here is what you should be looking at, right? So not only do you have that, you have other map features. So this is that example that I was talking about, where you can see that I've typed in the phone number, the location appears. Some of you have seen this video before, but it's always good to refresh. But you can see that I'm not moving. And then when we start moving, the pins are really close together. And now they're getting a little wider as we speed up. And they're going to get a little bit wider and then about the same. And then we're going to slow down to get on the highway and you can actually see those pins getting closer together. You know what's really cool? The agencies that have rolled this out to their police responders, their EMS, their fire responders, so they can actually just pop this up on the screen and the passenger can be telling you exactly where that caller is, play by play. This is what the new additional data tabs look like. So if you are on jurisdiction view and the calls are plotting over here and they're plotting on your map and there's additional data, they're gonna slide out just like this. So if any of you have jurisdiction view and you've entered your information into the emergencyprofile.org website or you've authorized MedicAlert to send your data, make sure you make a test call and you'll see exactly how this works. It's pretty cool. So this is just a clearer version of jurisdiction view, which shows situational awareness. You can click on the incident to see it, and it's almost real-time updated data. I want to pause that. No, that's a GIF. I can't pause that. One of the things that I want to show folks is this is an example of jurisdiction view in beta in Baltimore. This is about a half an hour into a time lapse. All of these pins are 911 calls that are coming in at one time. All the phone numbers are appearing over here. Imagine if you had a major incident and you're getting hundreds of 911 calls. I don't even want to verbalize what I'm talking about. This car's driving down the highway over here. But imagine getting a boatload of 911 calls at one time. Kind of like this situation on the highway in Sacramento. All of these calls are coming in at the same time, exactly 6:12 p.m., except this one little outlier over here, he's 6:11. But imagine if all of these calls were for an incident where you had to find where the incident was taking place from and everybody's moving away from it in one direction. You actually get to see where the call may have originated. So there's so many different variables for situational awareness here. It's mind-blowing. Sorry, I already told you about that. But I do want to show you as far as text messages go. Again, not everybody knows that you can tell the difference between a text and a voice call on jurisdiction view. So I just sent this test text here, And once the text goes through, you see this little text bubble icon. If it's a PIN, it is a voice call. Something really cool about the text to 911 that folks don't often always realize is if you don't have text to 911 in your jurisdiction, but you do have jurisdiction view, guess what? You're still gonna hear the little bloop, and it's gonna tell you there's a text being sent to 911. Now, jurisdiction view will show that there was a text made and here's the location. But what the caller gets is the bounce back message that says, sorry, text to 911 is not available here, please call. So if you get that notification and you don't get a call, it might be worth following up, right? I think so. And then the location after the call disconnects. So this is, again, we love our vendor partners, but they don't all have the same capabilities as the portal does. So with a partner integration, if the call disconnects, because some folks will say, oh, we have it in our call taking solution, we don't need the portal. The portal will have stuff that your integration doesn't. So when I talk about the location after the call disconnects, our vendor partners, they don't have a way for you to go back and ask for a location after the call disconnects. So if it's an abandoned call, if it's a hang up call, and that information didn't get to your screen in the integration, you have the opportunity to go back, or if you don't even have a partner solution, you have a minimum of 10 minutes up to 20 half-hour minutes to go back and type in that phone number. So say you have a massive storm come through and you have 15 abandoned calls in the queue, and then you have to go back and check each one of those. The portal is going to allow you in that 10-minute window to go back and look. And if there was something there, it will display that for you. So you have that window to go back. You also have the ability on jurisdiction view to know that a call is coming. Now, this doesn't happen on every single call, and I know a few times where it won't work, but nonetheless, the majority of the time when the call is placed, and this is an example, when the 911 call is placed on jurisdiction view, often that location is sitting on the screen before the phone is even ringing on the handset. And this is an example of that. So you should be able to hear when the location hits. And because it's on speaker, you'll see the phone's not ringing. Okay, so the location appeared. Now the phone's ringing.
911 is live recorded.
Okay, so let me play that again. So I'm going to place the 911 call, put on speaker. The location appears here. And now the phone is ringing. So on that abandoned and hang up call, that's kind of a big deal. This call should have been an abandoned call. And this is one of the things that we really want folks to understand when it comes to things that we always knew and believed in 911. Back in baby dispatcher school, they told me if you pick up the phone and dial 911 and hang up, it's still going to go through. And we know that for landlines, that is true. And then when cell phones came out, the little flip phones and analog type systems, I know that if I dialed 911 and hung up, it too would come through as an abandoned. However, with smartphone devices and the way that that technology works, the lie detector determined that's a lie. And what I mean by that is because jurisdiction view is doing what it's doing, we've realized that not all abandoned calls by the caller or the user actually get delivered to the 911 center. And in some cases, that could be bad. In some cases, that could be somebody that truly needs help. And for whatever reason, that call got disconnected before it made connection with the 911 center. So what does that mean? We're seeing times where jurisdiction view is dropping that pin like it's hot and no call is coming into the 911 center. Now, the first reason that that might happen is because the call went to somebody else's house. So if they're standing in the corner of your jurisdiction and the pin drops, that makes sense. But the call actually bounced to your neighbors because it hit a closer tower to them. That's logic. That's understood. We get that. But what we also know is that folks that hit the button on the side of their phone 5 times by accident, and then they go, oh no, I need to cancel that. And then they hit swipe and they cancel it. Some of those calls are showing the location on jurisdiction view, but the call is never coming in. Same with the Apple Watch. Same with somebody like me that decides to do a test call. So this is me placing that 911 call. And I've disconnected, but the location is already here. So I'm just gonna play that again real quick, and then I'm gonna show you, after I sent a text and asked if there was an abandoned call that accompanied it. So you can see that I placed the 911 call and I hit send. Location pops, and then I hit end. So in theory, by definition, we always know that that call should be going through. However, it does not. And I can't explain that reasoning in depth, but you can see here on my text messages that I've done this several times, and there are times that I've disconnected the call, but the abandoned call did not go through. So you would get a notification that there was a pin that dropped because that device attempted to make a 911 call. So that's pretty cool. And now here's where I'm going to totally blow your minds. There are a lot of things that we didn't understand about NSI phones, non-service initialized phones. When I learned in baby dispatcher school, if the area code was 911, that meant that there's no service on that device. And again, the lie detector determined that is a lie. And it's not an intentional lie. It's just there's some behaviors that have been going on for a really long time that many of us may not have been aware of. So bottom point here, for many years, these 911 area code calls have wreaked havoc on us. But one thing we don't know is, why are their phones with, well, we know some of them. What folks don't know is there are phones that have a service, that have a data plan, that have a phone number, that are as active and normal as this device right here. There are times where I can take this active device, dial 911, call 911, and on that area code on the alley, it's gonna have a 911 area code. Now, if that telecommunicator fails to ask the caller what number they're calling from, and they basically assume that it is a disconnected cell phone, then they're being irresponsible, because there are devices that are sending through 911 area codes that actually have service. So first, go back and make sure that every 911 area code, you and your staff are saying the words, what number are you calling from, and not assuming, because we know what happens there, okay? Second, know the reasons why a perfectly good working smartphone would deliver a 911 area code. So a true non-service initialized device is on the top part of the screen, has no valid service and contract, has no associated subscriber information, does not provide any alley or callback features. That is a true, sadly, this is a picture of a pile of cell phones that I grabbed around my house. Every one of those disconnected cell phones. The reasons why you may have information and data available is right here in this list. And it is on the FCC's website. So more information on 911 call forwarding requirements for NSI phones can be found at this docket on the FCC website. So basically, Not all calls with a 911 area code in the NE are non-service initialized devices that we assume they are. So if the call is in a weak signal area, if the call is roaming, if it's from another country, if the registration hasn't been fully completed, if there's a network problem. So guess what? If the network's down, jurisdiction view can still show location. But there are times if there's a network issue, then they may see the 911 area code, and then prepaid phones that run out of minutes. So now what does that mean? It means you should be asking every single caller what number you're calling from, even if you see a 911 area code, period, right? And if you only have query view, what is the number you're calling from? 555-1234. You put that phone number into query view. If you have jurisdiction view, guess what? It's automatically appearing if it is an enabled device and the actual phone number is listed. So how do we know this? With query view, we had folks that would email us and text us and say, hey, did you know you can get location for 911 only phones? It's not that they're 911 only phones, it's they're 911 only phone imposters, but they actually really do have service. And now, even if you don't have RapidSOS capabilities in your center today, but you will tomorrow or in a few weeks because you're going to sign up, you can still ask the caller for the phone number as soon as possible. And now that's the phone number that you send over to the carrier to have it traced if needed. Don't assume that because there's a 911 area code sitting on that alley that there's no actual phone service that can be traced. That is a big mistake I made, other folks made, people have told me they've made. If I could see all your faces, I bet you there's at least 10 people going, I did not know that. And that's okay. That's why we learn, right? So what does that mean for the types of service that are on the portal? That non-service initialized / 911 area code, because really they are two different things, right? On the query view, if you ask the caller to verbalize the phone number, you type that phone number in there. If they give it to you, you type it in there and watch the oh wow factor when you see information show up. And then on the jurisdiction view side, if that caller can't speak to you, if it is a 911 area code because it's an NSI imposter, then the location is automatically going to appear if it's an enabled device. And on the left-hand side, you're going to get the actual phone number. So if they can't speak to you, game changing, right? Imagine that time that somebody couldn't speak to you and you're looking at the 911 area code and you just made an assumption that you couldn't trace the call. But yet using jurisdiction view could give you that phone number. So while you're using this information, you can pop it over to the carrier just to make sure that you validate that that is the right location. And now here's another profound, oh my goodness. Remember that pile of phones that I showed you? Well, I took one of them. One of them is my husband's disconnected cell phone from like 4 upgrades ago. I took the SIM card out of it and I called 911. So when I called 911 the first time, nothing. It went to the state police because it was a phase 1 call because it had nothing attached to it. It came up as a 911 area code. And then I connected it to Wi-Fi. Yep. I connected it to Wi-Fi and look what happened. Same phone, connected it to Wi-Fi. Now it didn't appear as quick because it is a true disconnected cell phone.
You're being recorded. Where is your emergency?
Hi, this is Tracy.
So this device was connected to Wi-Fi. It is a true disconnected cell phone, but it's connected to Wi-Fi, and look what happened. Not only did it give the location, that's the exact location where the test call was made, but it also gave a phone number. And that phone number is actually the phone number that was attached to the device before it was disconnected. So there's a little bit of a problem here, and I call this a benefited consequence. The more we get these situations, it's going to benefit us. But every once in a while, there's going to be this little bit of confusion because the call may come in And if it's a hang up call and you call that number back, so imagine, if you will, that I finished that call and I said to the dispatcher, there's some type of shooting, and I hang up the call. On their alley screen, all they're looking at is a 911 area code. When they turn to look at jurisdiction view, they say, oh my goodness, we have a location and we have a phone number. So they're going to go ahead and try and call that phone number back. One of three things is going to happen when they call that phone number. It's going to be a true disconnected cell phone, and it's going to come back and go, boo boo dee, the call is disconnected. The second option is going to be nobody answers. And then the third is going to be, my husband's going to answer that phone, and while I'm at my house in Rochester, he's in Attleboro, and he answers the phone, and you say, you called 911, and he says, no, I didn't. He didn't call 911, but this device that used to be registered to that phone number that was connected to Wi-Fi will send the location and that phone number. So that is a benefited consequence. However, more often than not, it's going to be a benefit than a consequence. So we're really excited about that. These two right here, this was a incident where back-to-back calls, so this call and this call, both came in back-to-back in an agency. Jurisdiction view showed the actual location on both of these calls, but the alley screen showed no record found. And a very smart director who's on top of the ball said, well, that's weird. 2 calls came in back-to-back. I wonder if there's a problem. He identified the tower by this number that delivered the call. And because all of this data was here, they were able to identify, because when we get this, there is nothing showing the location of that caller, nor is there any alley attached to it. So again, another benefit of jurisdiction view, because this information was available. He ultimately took this situation to their phone provider and identified a problem with this particular tower, got it rectified, and then no record found, as they had been coming in for a period of time. So, and same thing if your network goes down. If your network goes down, then you don't know that 911 calls are coming in, but jurisdiction view can tell you that. This is actually a street view call where folks don't realize on the mapping, not only can they access satellite, but they can access street view. This is a call where the pins are showing. I'm actually in my house, behind this house right here, but these are where the pins are showing, and you can see them through the woods. Kind of crazy, huh? Some of you have seen these before. These are just some fun butt dial calls, etc. But on a roller coaster, on a golf course, on a go-kart, on a ski slope, and this is by far my favorite, since you all know I travel, is on a plane. So clearly they didn't shut down when they should have, but you can see how they're going slow, and then they speed up to take off. So some of the other data portion that we're seeing, the other data points that we're seeing that folks, again, you may not even be aware of that happen. We send out newsletters, we send out announcements, we try to communicate with folks. If you see an email from RapidSOS, don't just think, oh, they're just sending out another email. Open it. Why? Because at the end of that email might be us telling you that Google ELS is now sending even more additional data, such as language. So in this case, you can see that this person that owns this device speaks English and Spanish. So if they're not able to speak English to you, you can very quickly get somebody from language line that's on the line speaking their language. In this case, we are also getting Google ELS crash notification from certain Pixel devices. Many of you already know about InvisaWare. InvisaWare is jewelry that it has the ability to send location, but they too are going to be sending additional data, such as emergency contact, home information, medical data. This is what the InvisaWare information will look like. Not only do you get the person's name, date of birth, all kinds of stuff. Uber was one of our first partners. They're still sending data, and a lot of folks don't even realize it. So again, if you're not typing that phone number into query view, you have no idea this data is sitting behind it. Second of all, if you don't have jurisdiction view, you are behind the curve and I need your jurisdictional boundary, like ASAP, so we can get this on it for you. So one of the things for additional data that folks are nervous about is what happens when we see additional data, like pictures and videos. I want folks to start looking at additional data as something that's going to help them help their callers, which in turn helps the dispatcher. See my method there? I always talk about saving lives on both sides of the call. Save the caller, which in turn saves the dispatcher. I like those odds. This is just for me to show you, we say beyond location, emergency data response. This is what I want to share with folks. This is an actual video. A child is going to get hit by a car, but don't freak out. I know the kid, he's in my Explorer program. He's a big goofball, but nonetheless, he's going to get hit by a car in the video that I'm about to show you. This is an older video. It's not a connected home like we have today. But I bet if I was in a room with all of you and I said, raise your hand if you have the ability to get notified if somebody was in your driveway right now, and a bunch of people would raise their hands. In addition, I would say to those folks, if we were at a conference that was miles and miles away, what would you do if you saw kids in your driveway riding their bikes and then one gets hit by a car at the end of the driveway? What would you do? The most appropriate answer would be, I'm going to call 911. But if I call 911 and I'm over here and my house is over there, now they get a transfer and all that. But we know that apps have the ability to deliver calls to the 911 center where the call belongs, because we do that with InvisaWare. So imagine, if you will, if this is what I'm looking at, right? So I'm sitting in the conference and all of a sudden my app notifies me that somebody is in the driveway. So now I'm watching the video and this is what I see. Oops. This is what I see. Now keep an eye on the kid in the orange shirt. I was told that there were no injuries as I responded as an EMT. There were no injuries. The driver said he was going about 10 miles an hour, which again, the lie detector determined that was a lie. And then Chris's brother, Steven, said that he didn't really get hit by the car. He kind of bounced off of the side of it. And I can assure you that if I saw this video as an EMT on the way to this call, I would have been calling for a med flight, because there was no way that car was going 10 miles an hour, nor did the child bounce off the side of the vehicle. So the information we get from the scene is not always accurate. So isn't it about saving lives? Isn't that why we do this job? Or do we want to just half-ass it? No, a dispatcher may not need to see this, but imagine giving your EMS folks access in the field and the dispatcher sees, hey, there's additional data there you might want to take a peek at. And on the way to the call, I can see that data. And now, instead of taking him to a local hospital, I would be transporting him to a level 1 trauma center where he belonged. Now, he only had a little bit of hip pain, which is fine, but nonetheless. Now go back to the person that is watching this video. How cool would it be if they could just simply hit a button on their app that says, I need to call 911 where this house is located? Look at how much time just got saved. None of this, I'm in Florida, I need the call to go to Texas, got to send it over here, got to do that. That's what we're talking about as far as additional data. We don't have to be afraid of it. Live Freely is another app that is providing additional data that we've partnered with. MedicAlert, when I say MedicAlert, I mean the MedicAlert bracelet, not the I fallen and can't get up thing. But if somebody has a MedicAlert ID and they pay for that service, they place a 911 call and it's attached to their device or the caretaker's device, that data can be sent through as well. And then it will show up on their screen, and they can also search an ID as well. So without the 911 call, if somebody calls in and says, there's somebody there that fell out. Now, I didn't know that fell out mean they passed out. when I got that call here in Massachusetts and somebody told me they fell out, and I said, where'd they fall out of? Now I know that that fell out terminology is, sorry, that's, if you saw today's, that was the ADHD thing that just took over. But if somebody calls and says there's somebody on the ground and they have a MedicAlert ID, you can put that in there and search it and find out who this person is. In addition, Apple is coming to the rescue again. The information on your medical ID, when you go into your medical ID and your family's medical ID, you activate the piece on here that allows them to send that data to 911 on your behalf. Your emergency contacts, your allergies, your medical conditions. And then the emergencyprofile.org. This is a partnership between RapidSOS, American Heart Association, American Red Cross, and Direct Relief, where you encourage, if you have the portal, encourage your citizens to get on there and fill out this information. So when they place a 911 call, they can get this additional information as well. We have connected buildings. 911 Inform is starting to send data. Avaya is sending data. Home security, such as Cove. We have like Safe Zone and Zero Eyes, which are shot detection type APIs. And then real-time crash situational data. I don't know if you guys saw that we announced our partnership with SiriusXM, but I just want to share this little video with you. It's pretty powerful and we're pretty excited and we're looking forward to the data that we're going to be getting as far as automatic crash notification, and then we'll have a couple minutes for questions.
Going into a call blindly takes time away from the care you're going to render to a patient. Once you get to a scene, you need to assess the scene, assess your safety, evaluate your patient. It really puts time on the clock for you. A medical helicopter arriving at that scene by the time we arrive is critical. It really is.
By working with RapidSOS, we're able to transmit vehicle crash data, driver data, and sometimes medical data as well to the first responders as quickly as possible.
Patient care is our goal. We can respond easier, quicker, and more appropriately with the additional information.
By sending that automatically through the RapidSOS platform, the telecommunicator can receive all of that rich data at their fingertips to help validate and verify the information that they're being told. We are partnered with over 4,700 911 centers across the country, covering over 92% of the United States population. We've become a trusted partner of the 911 community and the public safety community to help improve and create efficiencies in that response to the emergency call for service.
The impact of saving time en route to a call is saving lives, without a doubt.
Many OEMs already have a very strong brand promise, which is centered around protecting their customers. And what we're doing with this new process is we're taking this and turning it into a data stream. And what that lets us do is add a lot more value on top of the traditional automatic crash notification service, leveraging the information the vehicle can provide.
When companies work together in concert and provide better service to customers, enabling 911 professionals to do the very best job they can do. I mean, that's fantastic.
Every once in a while, an opportunity comes along to make people's lives not only better, but safer. And that's the thing that I think is really exciting about this product. And I can't wait to get it in market and help save more lives.
Having this telematics data is going to answer a lot of questions for us that otherwise would be unanswered.
Seconds save lives. Driving a more informed decision-making process is going to help save lives.
So that is really cool. We're very excited to do that. There are benefits. These are just some of the benefits that, and yes, I will be sending out the PDF of this one as well. And you can see here that, you know, having an integration is truly, we want it in your existing workflow, but just understand that the portal is going to bring some things that the integration doesn't, and that's some of these things that are listed here. being able to assist with 911 area code calls, knowing that somebody in your jurisdiction texted you, but the text never came in because maybe you don't have text to 911. Being able to utilize the different types of mapping and the situational awareness that Jurisdiction View brings. Again, not an infomercial. I promise so many of you are using this technology, and I want you to get the best information you can. I mentioned this morning, if you're new to this session and weren't here this morning, I started on Scene First with Tracy Eldridge. I would love for you to like my pages on LinkedIn and Facebook and jump into the podcast. I have 4 episodes that have launched. And if you want to be a guest, please let me know. I would love to have you. And if anybody has any questions, I think we have a few minutes. My email address is there. Most of you know how to get in touch with me. Friend me on Facebook, but I will make sure that I get these PDFs to everybody that was registered today and get you in touch with the folks that can make all of this happen for you. So, any questions? I hope you learned at least one thing that you didn't know before, because there's a lot of stuff that was going on that we've been identifying. That stuff about the 911 phones, that blew me away. So I am making a mission to share that information. Roxanne, I will have to confirm as far as radius goes. I think currently today, the portal is the only one that's able to receive that emergency data, the emergency profile information, but I will confirm for you and let you know. All right, well, I have a couple of private questions that folks have sent me, so I am gonna turn it back over to your amazing folks, and I will shut off my camera and answer those other questions, and I'll be on for a few minutes if anybody has anything further. Thanks, guys. Stay safe, and stay here. We need you.
Awesome stuff, Tracy. Thanks so much for sharing with us again that technology. I know when I get those emails, I'm always like, this is so awesome. We're saving lives, and it truly does work. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. And thank you, Justin. You were one of the first that I snagged and roped in and sucked in.
We did a lot of crazy training with an app at one time.
Totally did. But we made that go away, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
All right, guys, I'll go answer my questions now. Thank you so much.
All right, this training